So, first of all, we all know Diddy is a piece of crap. He's a weirdo. He's abusive. Let's get that out of the way. No one is excusing Diddy's behavior and the things that we know he did. The video of him, beating her on her in the hotel, that was egregious. It was disturbing. Um, it was terrible, you know. And I actually believe that type of behavior, deserves jail time. And he's been in jail for some time now. I think he's been in there about 7, 8 months. Um, but this case is not a domestic abuse case. So that has to be noted. Um, Cassie and Diddy, they dated from 2007 to 2018. All right. And there's a lot to unpack with this situation because Cassie was 19 when they started dating, and prior to dating Diddy, um, she had dated another producer named Ryan Leslie, who he spoke about how he had love for her and all of that, but she left him for Diddy. So as we know, Diddy was a bigger is a bigger producer. He's more well known historically, has more money. So, sometimes women, they chase a bag, or they chase, popularity and things like that. And it goes bad, it goes wrong. Because rather than looking at, a man who is successful but may not be as successful, or may not have as much money, but he will treat you right or not treat you poorly, um, they don't look at that. They chase the popularity, the money, and the fame. I will say this: I looked at Cassie, and I saw that she was raised by her mother and her father. Her parents are still together, but somewhere in here they went wrong, because why wouldn't she seek refuge from her parents? And also, um, why didn't they raise her to be able to avoid the devil? What I mean by that is, the first time Diddy brought up a freak off, she should have said, no, this ain't for me, and she should have ran. This is before there was any videos to blackmail with, and this was before she was deep enough in the relationship to, uh, be abused or anything like that. She said in court that when they read her testimony, she said that she wanted to be chosen. She didn't want him to choose someone else for the freak off. She didn't want him to lose interest if she wasn't interested in the freak offs, so she went along with it. So I think some accountability right there has to be taken. Furthermore, they started dating in 2007, from 2007 to 2018. In 2010, 3 years into their on and off relationship, she left him and was dating Kid Cudi for a period. At that moment, when she was, when they were apart and she was seeing someone new, that was her moment to leave and stay gone. 3 years into this relationship, and it said that they were having freak offs on and off every weekend. So she's already like, hundreds of freak offs in. Why wouldn't she leave then? That's that's what I'm thinking about with the whole accountability thing. At this point, she's like 22 years of age, 22, 23. Why wouldn't she leave? So that's what people are talking about with the accountability aspect, and that some part of these things um, she liked participating in. Um, Again, this is someone who had a career. She was appearing in movies. She was going on award shows. She was going to award shows. It's not like, Diddy was doing it. Diddy's a public figure. It's not like he was going to award shows and he was making public appearances alone, and then people were like, where's Cassie? And he had her in some basement or some dungeon or something, just doing these deeds. She was in public. They would go to public hotels. They would do these things in public places. And when he met her, she was already of age. You could say she was young at being 19 or 20 years of age, but she was already grown. She had already dated another man who was, at least a decade older than her and was already in the industry. And she was already in the industry. So I think that's another thing that people have to talk about with, allowing these people into the industry young. Just like we know Ashanti was dating Irv Gotti. Irv Gotti was married. Irv Gotti was much older than Ashanti, but he was a producer. She was a new singer, getting a deal, and these relationships happen. People have to talk about this. The parents have a responsibility in this when they let their young child get out there at 18, 19 years old. They may be grown, but they're young, and you're putting them out there, and they're exposed to older men with money and power where this type of manipulation can take place. But again, if you raise your children right, they would avoid the devil. When they see the devil, it's not worth it. The money and the fame is not worth going through what we hear from Cassie. And again, how bad does it have to be when one of the male escorts they had on the stand, he said that the request for urination was made from Cassie. Now, they went in the room together. He said that they went in the room together. Diddy and Cassie went in the room together. But then when they came out of the room, Cassie was the one that requested the urination. So you could say that, Diddy, controlled her. He manipulated her. He's the one, when they went in the room, he told her, yo, when we come out the room, I want you to say this. But she said it. And this is, again, that's speculation. But the testimony from the escort was that Cassie made the request. So that's what we do know. Cassie made that request. So that's the bad part, right? She made that request. So at what point is any accountability placed on her in the situation, right? Could Jesus die for us? All right. So yeah, that's just what I want people to think about. Um, I haven't heard anything so far in this case related to, the charges of sex trafficking and things like that. For me, it's not clear. I'm waiting for that part of it. Was he domestically, is there domestic abuse, physical, mental? Yes, that plays a role. But to say some of the things that they're saying, there has to be coercion and force and monetary gain. Diddy wasn't gaining money from this. The escorts were being paid, but that's, first of all, there's no hand-to-hand interaction that they've displayed from Diddy to an escort, and then also there's no proof of what the money was for, things of that nature. Those things have to be clear cut, and they're not clear cut. So I just want to, you know, place an eye on this. And then, they're saying that the second to last time she saw him, she was raped and she had a closure conversation. Why would you have a closure conversation with someone who abused you and did all of these horrible things to you for 10, 11 years? Why is there a closure conversation needed? And you could say that she has Stockholm syndrome and she was, forgiving her oppressor and someone who treated her so poorly. But again, that places accountability on the person. You know what I'm saying? You have to look at that. Because then she saw him again after the alleged SA grape situation. She saw him again willingly, and they had consensual sex. So none of this makes sense in the grand scheme of things. It's like one incident was abusive, the next incident was consensual, one is forced, one isn't. She went back several times on and off for 10 and a half years. It's, to me, it's painting a picture like they had a relationship. It was abusive. She was in love. I don't know if he was in love. She was in love willingly because she loved him and didn't want to lose him. So I'm waiting to see if there are other women who are going to come up, and because the trial is supposed to be 8 weeks, this is week 1. I want to see if there's other women who are going to come up who they brought a woman from New York to Florida or New York to LA, and this woman was forced to do something, or she did something for money, or something. I'm waiting for that to come up, because so far this week, when I put the pieces together of their relationship, a lot of the stuff just doesn't make sense. Y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Peace.